All right, let's dive in. Today, we're opening up some pretty wild case files. We're talking about expeditions that went out looking for one thing, and, well, they stumbled upon the impossible.
So what does happen when explorers or scientists, heck, even just regular folks, stumble across something that by all accounts just shouldn't exist? You know, the kind of discovery that completely upends everything we thought we knew about history, biology, or maybe even about our own planet?
Yeah, we're talking about some major anomalies. Stuff that just defies any easy explanation. Take, for instance, a perfect pyramid, seemingly carved out of the ice in the most remote, isolated continent on the entire planet.
Or how about a creature that was supposed to have died out with the dinosaurs suddenly popping up in a fisherman's net? No way, right? Or, get this, a whole set of underwater ruins that could literally rewrite the history of human civilization. Look, these aren't just cool stories or campfire tales. These are some of history's greatest unsolved cases. And today, we're opening the files.
Okay, first up, our investigation is going to start deep beneath the waves, where some of the absolute biggest mysteries are just lying there, hidden in the dark.
So, just recently, a company was out looking for oil off the coast of Israel, right? And they found something absolutely incredible. A mile deep, hundreds of ancient urns just sitting there. Turns out, they were part of a ship's cargo from 3,300 years ago. This thing just shattered all the records. It's now the oldest deepwater shipwreck ever found. And what that tells us is that ancient sailors were navigating the open ocean, probably using the stars, way earlier than we ever thought possible.
Okay, let's jump over to another deep-sea mystery. This time, we're off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island. And what you're looking at here? Well, it's a massive, 80-foot-tall structure, and it looks almost exactly like a stepped pyramid. You know, the kind of thing you'd expect to find in Mayan or Aztec ruins, not sitting at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean.
So, you can imagine this discovery kicked off a huge debate. On one side, you've got geologists saying, hey, look, the sandstone here just naturally breaks in straight lines. Tectonic activity could totally create these shapes. But on the other side, the people who found it are pointing to this incredible geometry, these features that look almost carved, and they're saying, this has to be a lost city. Some even think it could be the legendary Pacific Kingdom of Mu, you know, swallowed by the sea. For now, this case file is definitely still wide open.
All right, next case file. This time, we're shifting gears. We're looking at expeditions that didn't find lost cities, but lost life. We're talking about creatures that basically stepped right out of legend and into the real world.
So, picture this. It's 1938, South Africa. There's a museum curator, Marjorie Courtney Latimer, and she's doing what she often does, just sorting through a local fisherman's catch, looking for anything interesting. But on this one particular day, something catches her eye. It's this 5-foot-long bright blue fish with these really weird, almost limb-like fins. Nobody has a clue what it is.
And you know, there was a pretty good reason nobody knew what it was. This fish was a coelacanth. And the thing about the coelacanth is, it wasn't just some random, undiscovered species. According to every single science textbook at the time, this fish, well, it shouldn't have even existed.
I mean, for 65 million years, the coelacanth was something we only knew about from fossils. Finding a living one, that's like a paleontologist walking out their door and finding a living, breathing velociraptor. It was, no joke, immediately called the zoological find of the century. It completely forced us to rethink the timeline of life on this planet.
And it really makes you wonder, right? What other myths are actually based on something real? I mean, think about the Kraken, that terrifying legend that haunted sailors for centuries. Well, when giant squid carcasses started washing up on shore, scientists finally put two and two together. The myth, it was based on a very real, very massive creature, the giant squid. It just goes to show you, sometimes the most unbelievable stories are just waiting for somebody to find the proof.
Okay, for our last case file, we're heading to maybe the most remote and mysterious place on the entire planet. Antarctica, a whole continent buried under ice, and it might be hiding the biggest secrets of them all.
So if you look at the history of who was going to Antarctica and when, you see this really intense burst of activity right around the mid-20th century. First, you've got a Nazi expedition claiming a huge chunk of the continent. Then, boom, right after World War II, the US launches something called Operation High Jump. It's still the largest military expedition to Antarctica in history. And then, just a little over a decade after that, all the world's superpowers get together and sign a treaty, basically saying the continent is off limits for anything but peaceful science. It just begs the question, what was everybody so interested in down there?
Fast forward to today, and a lot of the exploring is done from space, with satellites. And back in 2016, satellite images of the Ellsworth Mountains turned up, well, this. A mountain peak with this shockingly perfect pyramid-like shape. I'm talking 4 distinct faces, a really sharp, pointed top. Its symmetry is just, it really doesn't look natural.
Now, the official scientific explanation is that this is something called a nunatak. It's basically a mountain peak that's sticking up through the ice sheet. And the idea is that over millions of years, the process of water freezing and thawing, plus these incredibly intense winds, can actually carve a mountain into some surprisingly regular-looking shapes.
But just like with Yonaguni, the debate is far from over. Geologists will point to other pyramid-shaped mountains, like the Matterhorn, as proof that nature can do this. But the other side argues that, but most nunataks have maybe 1 or 2 flat faces. They don't have 4 almost perfectly symmetrical sides. They believe that kind of geometry has to point to something artificial, maybe a structure from a long, long forgotten time when Antarctica wasn't buried under miles of ice.
And you know what? The pyramid isn't even the only weird thing down there. Not by a long shot. Satellite images have picked up what looks like a massive doorway, big enough for an airplane, carved into a cliff, and a weird staircase formation leading up a mountain. Plus, ground-penetrating radar has mapped out an entire landscape with rivers and everything, the size of Belgium, all buried under the ice. You throw in the totally surreal, iron-rich blood falls, and Antarctica is an absolute hotbed of unsolved mysteries.
So what you start to realize is that for every official explanation we get, there's always a really compelling question that just kind of lingers. These case files, they are nowhere near closed.
I mean, you can see the pattern, right? Take the weird stone structures in Lake Michigan. The official story is their prehistoric hunting lines. Okay, fair enough. But it makes you wonder how many more undiscovered sites are down there. The Yonaguni Monument? Natural sandstone erosion. But why the crazy perfect geometry? The Antarctic Pyramid? Just a nunatak shaped by weather. But could erosion really create 4 perfect faces? It's like every single answer just opens the door to an even bigger, deeper question.
You know, maybe the most staggering fact in all of this is that we have better, more detailed maps of the surface of Mars than we do of our own ocean floors. Think about that for a second. The greatest mysteries might not be millions of miles away out in the stars. They might be right here under our feet, just waiting to be found.
It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? With so much of our own world still basically a blank space on the map, from the deepest oceans to entire continents locked in ice, what impossible discovery is just waiting around the corner? What's the next expedition going to find by accident that changes everything? Honestly, the next great mystery could be uncovered tomorrow.